Some of you have already heard about my new dog, Shadow. She's a 3-year-old, mostly Labrador Retriever. We adopted from a home where she was loved, but didn't receive either sufficient exercise or proper training. She came to us after a week in a foster home with 2 other dogs, 3 small children, and lots of space to roam around indoors and out. Now she lives with us in a little house in the city with 2 adults, no other pets, and limited space indoors. She has adapted very quickly. The fact we love to play with her indoors and in the yard, walk her great distances on city sidewalks, and take her to the dog park whenever weather permits has helped us a lot. The visits to the dog park may actually be the most important factor in her adjustment. In her former home, she wasn't exposed to other animals, nor did she see people beyond the family who owned her. In her foster home, she didn't do well with the other 2 dogs. But at the park, she mixes with a dozen or more dogs and meets their owners too. So as we help Shadow adapt to a new pattern and adopt new behaviors, we have one of the strongest forces in the universe in our favor: evolution. The domestic dog has evolved to a relationship with humans based on dependency. In fact, even feral dogs live on the periphery of human community. Pet dogs who haven't been abused or conditioned toward violent behavior know they can get what they need from humans, either through submission or dominance. Dogs also haven't evolved out of their most basic instincts as pack animals. The family dog wants to know his place in the pack. And it helps us that Shadow is accustomed to a small pack at home. But she comes to life in a flash when she's in the pack that forms every day at the park. Now, when I walk her on the leash, I realize that she still has to learn good behavior when we meet other dogs and people. At the park, she reacts, but in the way domestic dogs are meant to react in social situations, in friendly, playful ways. On the leash, which isn't natural but necessary, a dog is more likely to react to other dogs and people from fear. The dog on the leash doesn't know where she stands. She can't run over and suss out the other dog, and even if she could, there would be trouble with the creatures at the other ends of both leashes, who are both trying to be dominant figures and avoid trouble. Now, some say my dog is trying to protect me when she meets you and your dog on the street. I doubt that, or that would really only be true if I allowed her to believe she is the dominant dog in the relationship as we walk together. What's more likely is that my dog is disoriented, and if she's concerned for anyone, it's herself. Now, I've observed 2 important things in the last couple of weeks with Shadow. When one of the dogs at the park behaves badly, it affects the behavior of the other dogs and their owners. Even if the owner of the dog who has acted inappropriately knows what to do to calm the dog, or just drags that dog to the parking lot as fast as she can, the energy in the environment will still have been changed, and the anxiety of both dogs and owners will remain high for some time afterward. Other dogs will behave badly. There will always be a human or 2 who will react by taking their dogs and leaving quickly. Now, things will settle down after a while. The homeostasis of the dog park is normally very good, very healthy. Better still, though, one of the dog owners will move things along by saying something that makes the other humans laugh. Even better, the biggest, oldest dog will just stand there and woof really loud. The other dogs will snap out of their reactive behavior. And in past years, when we had another dog, this was often the role of the big, placid, beautiful, drooly Newfoundlander. I mean a dog, not a dog owner. Now, The other thing I've observed is what often goes on between human and dog when dog is on the leash and a stranger or stranger and dog suddenly appear. Now keep in mind, dogs are built to encounter any new person, dog, or environment nose first. If ears and eyes are engaged without the nose, well, watch out. If the dog can't have a good sniff right away, the dog becomes anxious. And here's what often happens on the sidewalk. Man or dog see other man and dog. Doesn't matter who sees first. Now, dog, with that first glimpse, does get a first whiff and instinctively pulls forward to go and get that important follow-up smell. But there's a big fat leash and a bigger, fatter hand and an even bigger animal at the other end of the leash who's anticipating trouble, or at least an unwelcome interruption to an already long walk in the cold. Now, the dog has taken a fraction of a second before reacting to read the energy in the situation. And in that fraction of a second, man has tensed up, shortened the leash, and communicated anxiety to dog. So how is dog going to react? Now, my last dog was a sled dog. What did his brain say when I tried to pull him back through pressure on the harness or collar? Pull forward. Now, we humans like to think our pets can learn English, but they don't really learn words. They don't really even learn their names. They recognize the emotional energy behind our words. They respond to our energy with like energy. They can feel our inflections and respond with like feeling. There's a big difference in the way a dog will respond to the word ball if it said ball or ball, walk or walk, shadow or shadow, no or no. Now, dogs' brains aren't as big or as highly developed as ours, but their brains and ours aren't much different at the most basic organic level, where anxiety strikes and evokes the most basic flight-fear reaction. Remember that. Now, if you've read any of Peter Steinke's work, you'll already be acquainted with what he says about the animal brain in his books on systems theory and applications. And if you have the book that's on the recommended reading list, you'll find this in Chapter 5. But after Friedman and Gilbert and Richardson, and after Steinke, my favorite expert on systems theory and leadership is Cesar Millan. You may have heard him called the dog whisperer. Now, people call him when they want to train or retrain dogs who behave badly, or at least badly in their view. And Cesar always says, I rehabilitate dogs and train people. Now, if you own a dog and know Cesar's work, you may or may not agree with his methods, but stay with me here. The issue beneath most of the problems he's called in to solve is the dog owner's failure to understand that dogs are meant to behave like dogs, and humans are meant to behave like humans. And domestic dogs are conditioned to expect that. Really, what they expect is that we'll behave like dominant dogs. And they are happiest when the roles are clear. And when the roles aren't clear, dogs will try to dominate. Now, the dog whisperer doesn't use either the non-anxious presence or the self-differentiated leader, but he speaks over and over and over about the human role of calm, assertive pack leader. And on the Dog Whisperer TV show, Caesar enters homes where anxiety is high and does at least as much for the people, often more, than he does for the dog. But he always acts without heightened anxiety. even in the most serious and dangerous of situations. And I see Caesar Milan as the non-anxious presence.